I'm waiting, standing by. Stand by. Well, hello and welcome to a special live broadcast here at the Nelson Mandela's Children Fund, where today we'll be speaking about the Children's Manifesto. Former President Nelson Mandela said history will judge us by the difference that we make in everyday lives of children. And of course, this is the very foundation that he founded. It was founded in aid of children from birth to the years of 22, mainly in response to the AIDS crisis, those who had been orphaned by it. But today, as I mentioned, we speak about the Children's Manifesto. So that was recently launched, and it was in direct response to what President Cyril Ramaphosa said in 2019, saying that we as the government, our programs must be measured first and foremost by the impact that they have on our children. So as part of our Youth Day broadcast today, we've invited six young people, as you can see them there. They are part of the writers who participated in the Children's Manifesto, and they presented to political parties and government on issues affecting young children, especially on the 4 pillars of the Section 28 of the South African Constitution, the UNCRC, ACRWC, but of course, more than anything else, we are going to hear from them as they echo what President Cyril Ramaphosa said, saying that they are a third of our population, but they are often not heard, that they don't vote, but that they hold the future in their hands. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our first panelist on the right here, Carissa Padesi, and Huiganya Maduna is right next to her, and next to her is Majawela Maleo and Sipesi Lekhatebe right next to her, and Michelle Nkamana Geng, as well as Mangaliso Ngenge. And of course, so we'll be introducing you to the Nelson Mandela's Children's Fund's patron as well in just a moment. But let me just first get a big rousing hello and greet our audience. Tell them who you are. Let's start with you, Carissa. Why are you part of this group?
I feel that children, we are a big part of this country and we are not heard as much as we should be.
Why do you think that is?
Because there's been a lot of incidents where children have died or have been injured, and that isn't good since we are the future of this country, and if we aren't going to be good leaders and not be heard, our countries will fall apart.
And let me hear from you, Majawela, just in terms of leadership, what do you think is missing? Majawela, why are young children not given an opportunity to speak about leadership?
I think young children are not given the opportunity to speak because they think that we are voiceless, for we are very young. You can get a 9-year-old speaking some sense, but an elder person will not take that a 9-year-old's word because that person is younger than her or him.
And how did you get into the space? Because I believe that you also, as I mentioned, all of you were a big part of drawing up this manifesto, but all of you stood up and said, I wanted to be part of the leadership of this future. What were your reasons specifically?
My reasons were that I realized that children are not taken seriously, so I wanted all the children to be taken seriously, so I decided to join this group and fight for the children.
And what issues that relate to you specifically, that speak to you, did you feel that you want to bring to this platform?
The issues is that when we talk, sometimes we are not taken seriously, and our issues, what we have to say, is not taken seriously, and it's not heard, and it's not dealt of.
Sipho, what is leadership? When we talk about leadership, what do young children understand as leadership? What are the qualities?
Okay, we see leadership from our politicians, but I think half of South African children don't understand what leadership is. As you can see, our political parties, their common aim is to work together and fulfill South African citizens' dreams and things like that. But they cannot work together and actually think about us as South African citizens.
Michelle, what should they be thinking about? They are politicians, Tsepiso said, but they're also leaders in our communities. When it comes to children, what should be a priority for them?
Well, I think they should give a child a chance to speak of what they think should happen, because if they are the future, they should understand what will be happening in the country. If they don't understand, how are they supposed to lead the future forward?
And Smanga, you heard Carissa here earlier on saying young children get hurt. And I mentioned that the president is saying the children are a third of our population. And we're not talking about the youth, we're talking about children. But yet you don't get a chance to vote. How important would it be for you have a children's parliament, but if children could vote on some of the issues that politicians talk to us about?
I think it would be very good if children were to vote, because some parties, they don't focus on the needs of children. And maybe an adult might not notice that, but some children do. And if they can't vote, then their voices aren't really heard that much. If they can't vote or can't set policies, or at least can't be included in decision making.
And the kind of policies that you see now, and I know you all interacted with some of these politicians, what are the ones that you think young children should really have a say with? Is it just about health? Is it just about education, or other issues, Manga?
A lot of issues from development of electricity plants, and also health and education especially.
So I'm going to ask you all of this question in a word. You can either shout yes or no. 25 years into democracy, does this leadership that we have now care about the rights of children? No. You're in between, Smaga. Tell us why. Why are you in between?
I mean, children's rights are taken seriously, but not as seriously as they should be. Yeah, like you see that there are many organizations like Save the Children or other organizations like that. Back then, before democracy, we didn't have those kind of organizations. So I think that now we're getting better, but not good enough.
Wikaye, what do you think?
I think that the political parties, I'm not going to say all of them, because when we were on the 16th, we went to show our manifesto to the political parties, but only one political party came. So this shows that they do not really care about us.
They don't take you seriously?
Yes.
Which political party showed up? I'm just curious.
The political party that showed up is ATM.
ATM. And did you then think, as people were voting on the 8th of May, that this is the party that people should vote for because they at least came to listen to your concerns?
Yes, because as it says that your vote, my future, if the people did vote for ATM, a much of change would have happened, and we would be taken seriously and be focused on.
I'm going to get into the making of the manifesto in just a moment, but Carissa, did you read any of or listen to the adults when they're talking about some of these political parties and what was in their manifestos? Did you understand some of it? Do you think it spoke to young children?
Not really, because it wasn't really written in a child-friendly manner. I was told to give a speech about the political parties' manifestos, and I had to have my mom help me because I couldn't understand many of the words since it's not a child-friendly language.
Mashali, do you agree with that? Yes. Did you read any of them?
Not really. Like, firstly, my aunt is part of these political thingies. And then, like, there's these big papers written manifesto. And, like, I'm way too young to read something this big. It will be boring and stuff, you see.
So they don't try and appeal to you. Do you agree,
Yes.
Tsepiso? What would you have liked to see differently?
Maybe, if at all, there were as many as pictures as possible, because it was only written in words.
So that they can illustrate to you and
Yes.
to understand better. Michelle, you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
What would you have liked to see?
I would like to see all the documents from the government being also printed in child-friendly form. And also we have to support the NGOs who support the children in the law and the policies that they have to learn.
Okay, so let's get to the making of this manifesto. Smanga, there have been manifestos written before. What is different about this Children's Manifesto 2019?
I guess what's so different about it is that more children were involved, and also that now we're getting even closer to getting it mentioned in like large political platforms like Parliament. And I think that this manifesto, it's probably better. It's definitely better than all the others.
Okay, so I'm going to go around this way again. So Carissa, what is different? Tell us a little bit more about what's gone into the manifestos, and we'll go through the various themes as well. But what is most important for you to be in this manifesto?
Well, I feel this manifesto is different since it does talk about children. Other manifestos do talk about children, but they aren't like that big of a picture. So I feel here we are a big picture and we list all the problems. We even list ways on how the government can help us to like prioritize us and hear our voices.
Okay, so let's get into some of the big themes. You talk about children's rights. What are you saying to government? What are you saying to society about children's rights, upholding children's rights?
I want to say that they are children's rights, but those children's rights, they're doing nothing about them. They just children's rights for being children's rights, but they do not actually take them seriously. And I can say it's like they do not know the children's rights.
So talk to me about the Manifesto Hukanyo. So when you say you're not saying manifesto so that people can read, but you want them to act. What did you want them to act on?
I wanted them to act on the things that they should do as we listed our issues.
So, Major, there are obviously issues that relate to every single one of you. Tell us about you, who you are, where you come from, and the issues that you see that reflect you in this manifesto.
Okay, I'm from Protea Clan, Extension 13. So in this manifesto, this whole manifesto, I'm very lucky that only one issue happened to me, which is bullying. And it fixed very quickly because it was this year, there was this guy at my school who used to bully me. But then I told my mom, and my mom called the deputy principal.
How was he bullying you? Tell us about that.
Like, maybe, you see, we're a crowd here. I'll be standing with you guys. He would just come and push me and say, no, it was a mistake. So you can't repeat a mistake every time. So I eventually told my mom, and my mom fixed the matter with the deputy principal. And right now, this person is the one that guards me every time. Are you okay? You see, yes.
So what do you think changed? Is it because a person in authority, an older person, spoke to him, or do you think they started seeing you as a peer, as a child, as much as they are?
I think it's because someone older spoke to him, because he's kind of a bully to almost everyone. So the thing is that I was quiet. I didn't fight myself back. I just kept quiet until I've had enough and thought this will go too far.
So basically, this really comes down to the protection of children's rights, which you've spoken about in this manifesto. Bullying, we seem to be reading about that a lot in social media, in print media. We see stories and even hear about it. How big a problem is it in our society, and have you experienced it?
Truly speaking, I haven't experienced bullying, but many of my friends do experience it. Hence, it's a very big issue to our society, because it leads to children doing harmful practices such as suicide. And those children who are actually bullying, maybe the children, let's say the victim decided to commit suicide. The children which was bullying the victim would also need counseling, and now it's and counseling needs someone to talk to, not actually someone older, but most of the time it is someone older, which shows that we as children in South Africa also need people older than us we can trust,
who can protect you,
who can protect us, just like the leaders in South Africa. But I don't see that happening much.
Michelle, what about you? I understand that you obviously have come to live in this country with your family. Did you experience any difficulties being part of the broader South African society? Did you feel any different?
No, I just felt like I was home.
You felt like you were home, so you were never bullied because your parents are not from here?
No.
No. So have you experienced any kind of bullying? Do you know anybody who has? And have you experienced bullying because you're a girl, as in evidence of gender-based violence in schools as well?
I have been bullied by some of my classmates because sometimes they think I'm not strong enough to do what they think that I cannot do. And sometimes I'm even bullied because when I try to have friends, they always come and take the friend away from me. Then they take that I'm trying to steal the friend. Then they start saying mean words to me, and they just walk away while pulling that friend who wants to come back.
Sibanga, I mean, when we talk about gender-based violence, it's become such a popular word in our lexicon, in our everyday language. But does it mean anything to young children? Is there a divide between boys and girls at school, in the home environment? How do you understand it?
I think that gender-based violence, it's a very scarring thing for the child, because gender-based violence also exists in the home. So like sometimes maybe, I don't know, maybe the husband will beat the wife, and you know, the child is scarred by that. So gender-based violence, it happens in a lot of places, but I don't think it comes to school that much. I mean, no.
Let me ask the young ladies on this side. Do you see evidence of that in school or in your home environment, gender-based violence? Is it something that you are faced with, Carissa? Is it something that you've had to deal with?
Not really, but sometimes the boys they'll be rude to the girls, but like that, sometimes just boys. But it isn't such a big thing, and they don't really discriminate us.
Okay, so you don't really experience that. Wikanya?
I do not experience it, but
or have you seen it even?
Yes, I have seen it when boys come to girls and beat them and tell themselves that they're stronger than girls. Girls cannot beat them, stuff like that.
Okay. And Majal, what do you know about it?
I don't know much. I just see at school, only a few people who come to you and be like, "Hi, I'm a boy. You see, like, cause you're a girl, you can't do anything to me. Give me what I want, and now."
So I'm going to ask all of you this question, and you answer depending on who wants to answer first. Because in your manifesto, you also talk about gangs in school. You also talk about drugs in school. Any of you being confronted with that? Do you know anything about it? Smanga, please go ahead, and we'll come back to you.
Definitely, yes. So there was this one time it was one of my old schools, because I moved around schools a lot, and there was some child, like one of the like the cool kids, he was really like tough, and like they did a lot of bad stuff. And this one time, a child who I will not mention, he brought a homemade tranquilizer dot. Yeah.
He bought a homemade
Tranquilizer dot.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
the things that you shoot at animals.
So
that go wrong.
what happened? What happened? Did he use it on anyone? And do you think he was part of a gang? So
Well, he never used it on anyone. It was more like a prank thing, but I think it was real. Like, most of us thought it was real. And then one of us, told the teacher, and then and then it got taken away. But I don't think he's part of a gang. But I remember every time we went to aftercare, they would be carving knives out of wood. So yeah.
Mikanya, you wanted to say something about those gangs and drugs in school.
Yes, I wanted to say that I know that gangs occur in schools when there are no sports and extra things that learners can do, so they form gangs and do drugs and do anything that can keep them out of bottom because of lack of sports in school.
So we hear that young children are getting involved in drugs or are sold drugs. I mean, there are always these warnings on WhatsApps to parents saying, be careful of such and such sweets or stickers. Have any of you ever been in a situation like this? Any of you?
No.
Have you? Any of you? Yes, we go.
At school, there was the sweets that's a roll-on. Yes, they were selling those sweets, and a lot of children were buying them. And
were they bad sweets? Did they have drugs?
Yes, there was a warning that the sweets were not good.
Okay, Majal, we'll come to you, then we'll come to you. Smanga, yes, you wanted to say something about that?
Just to add up on Hikana's saying, those roll-on sweets, every time you eat them, isn't it, you just lick them, just like you putting roll-on, but on your tongue. Every time when you're done with it, like most children, they come out purple blood, like on their tongues, and then they just keep quiet so that they can get into trouble.
So none of you...
And another sweet I know is a jawbreaker. This other big sweet. Most people said it had drugs because once this young child ate that sweet, and like she started sleeping like in such a way that everybody was scared.
Okay, Smanga, and then I'll come to you, Michelle, and specifically. Yes, you can go ahead. Would you want to add on this?
Yeah, I remember this one time I was going to school, and then I heard a news report on the radio that there were these people who were sneaking drugs into candy, and then selling them to children. And I remember this one time that me and my friend, we were at church, and an old lady, she offered us some candy, but we did take it after our suspicions were down. But there was a lot of fear after that news report came out.
So you must be careful. Yeah. So Michelle and Tsepiso, do you want to comment on that, or do you want to comment about the other issue that you've got in here, and that is corporal punishment? Does that still happen in schools? Specifically, let's start with you.
Yes, in many of the schools, corporal punishments still happen. I think it's because as much as elders don't take us serious, as much as leaders don't take us seriously, also teachers in schools who are much older than us don't see the point. Why must we respect them if at all the leaders of South Africa don't also respect them? Most of the black people tell themselves that we cannot do it, or our levels are not the same. So if at all someone who has a high level is doing this, why can't I follow that person, and why must I be different from that person?
Michelle?
I think corporal punishment still happens in schools. No matter what the government is trying to do, people still practice it.
Is it right or is it wrong in your views?
It's wrong because I think that in schools, teachers are beating the children to hide their way of the bad teaching lessons. Because they're trying to blame it on the child for not understanding it. But I think they are trying to hide their shame for not helping the child to have better understanding.
Do you think corporal punishment brings discipline to young children, Michelle? Do you think as a young person that you would respond to somebody using corporal punishment to bring you in line, to discipline you?
Sometimes. Sometimes it's for discipline, sometimes it's not.
All right, so we'll come back and continue with our discussion with the young writers of the Children's Manifesto 2019, all 6 of them contributing to this. The theme, of course, being looking into children's rights 25 years into democracy. We'll be back shortly to discuss more on what's in the manifestos and what solutions they're proffering to the politicians. We'll be back shortly.
The SABC News mobile app is your one-stop digital portal to all the news you need. Stay connected with the latest in breaking news. Watch the SABC News channel along with clips and live streams of all the big news events. And listen to all the SABC News radio stations live, including podcasts and much more. Simply download the SABC News app to your Android or iOS device from either the Play Store or the App Store. SABC News, independent, impartial.
Did you know that the Nile River is actually 6,695 kilometers long? With such a length, the Nile is speculated to be the longest river in the world. It winds from Uganda to Ethiopia, flowing through a total of 9 countries. While the Nile River is often associated with Egypt, it actually touches Ethiopia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Sudan, as well as Egypt. One of the most well-known facts is the Nile River's ability to produce extremely fertile soil, which made it easy for cities and civilizations to spring up along its banks.
Sarah, who climbed Everest, she arrived here with much jubilation.
I took every African with me to the top of the world. Most of the names on the wall are of soldiers who lost their lives in Somalia under the African Union Mission in Somalia, AMISOM.
In Africa, we have Ubuntu.
We need to make more integration.
The highlight of the Zigama is the highest bungee jump in the world.
The main driver of that area is tourism.
And welcome back. You're watching the Full View special live broadcast during this Youth Month. We'll be doing various broadcasts focusing on youth issues, but today we're focusing on the issues around children and children's rights, and we're broadcasting live from the Nelson Mandela's Children Fund in conversation with 6 of the young people who are involved in drafting this year's 2019 Children's Manifesto, and that is Mangaliso Mklenge, Michelle Nkamanakeng, and Tsepiso Makwetla, Madrayela Maleo, Huigana Maduna, and Carissa Pedesian. I would like to introduce you to Mampe Nsedi, who's the Program Manager, Child Safety and Protection, Nelson Mandela's Children Fund. She's been listening into her young charges as they've been talking to us about what is in the manifesto, not only the content, but the sentiment behind it. But let's first start with you, Mampe. What was the rationale behind having this platform? And as I mentioned, this is obviously not the first time the manifesto has been drawn up, but this time round, and how did you come across these young people?
Thank you very much, Tsepiso. The manifesto is actually a response to the issues that children have been raising. The Nelson Mandela Children's Fund runs what we call the Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament. We've been doing that for the past 15 years or so. And what happens is that children will draw up issues and then present to the minister and the civil society, but nothing was really happening. So there was no platform for them to actually engage and ensure that their issues actually integrated in the plan of action for government. So this came about when they were talking to us and say, every year we come together in different provinces and talk about our issues. We have an opportunity. There are elections. Can we draw our own manifesto? Other countries actually have this children's manifestos, and for South Africa it's actually the first. So they said to us, can we draw this and tell the politicians what our issues are and what we want to see changing in the manner in which they deal with us, in the manner in which they speak to us. What they were saying, they actually did analyze the political parties' manifestos. And it's either children are mentioned 5 times, 3 times, 30 times. But if you look into the content of the issues related to children, it's not so much in terms of the change that government is seeing. We're seeing a lot of mentioning of children when we're talking about early childhood development and education. Very little when it comes to justice. We have a lot of children whose cases have not moved. Some cases have actually been withdrawn, and some cases didn't see the day of the light. Police do not take children seriously. As they're saying, if a child goes and reports a case, police do not take that seriously.
I'm going to get the young panelists to answer this question in just a moment, but you had, when former President Nelson Mandela was in office, he had an office of the rights of the children, and we don't see that anymore. What we have is an office that deals with women, children, and people with disabilities. That conflation, do you think that is what hurts children the most?
Very true. If we check in the manifesto, the last part is about that institutionalization of children's issues. Mr. Mandela was very clear that children are important. Hence, children were in his office and had made sure that he signs the protocols that were important in protecting children's rights. But what happened is in 2009, things changed. We started with a ministry, which all of us who are activists in this sector had always said we do not need a ministry. And then when that ministry was taken out, children were taken to DSD, which is Department of Social Development. What that means is that children are a problem. So you're going to deal with them on the basis of the social ills or problems that they have. You are not seeing them as a developmental.
Yes.
So in the country, there's not much that you see. Even look into the Department of Education. Check the statement that you have. It's not a statement that says we are looking forward to building a nation. Hence, you will have situations whereby 30% will be okay for children to pass matric. And that actually says you are not actually building a cohort that is going to take this country forward. The leadership that we had previously. I mean, if you look into some of the kids who come from some of these schools, you listen to the English, but the content, there's no content. They can't comprehend on a number of issues.
Okay, so it is the former president that says education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, and these young people here are changing the world step by step, issue by issue. Machawela, I believe that you were part of a presentation to the South African Council of Churches with the former president, Kgalema Motlanthe. What was the content thereof? What were you going to there to talk to him about?
Okay, it was me and Sabelo, who's not here today. Okay, we went there to launch our manifesto to make them aware of our issues. And unfortunately, we were there very early, and then there was a program. Okay, that program, we were in the middle, but then they passed us and called all the other people. If it wasn't for Malume Tsietsi, we would have gone there for nothing. If he didn't stand up and say, these children came here and they're the only 2 children in this room, all of us are adults. And then they gave us a chance to speak, even though it was scary. We talked everything and talked sense into them. Immediately after our shoot, we went, and all the people who were in the room were coming to us, congratulating us that they even said we're 10 years old, and we're not 10-year-olds, we're older than that. They called us 10-year-olds and said we're too young to talk some sense. And they said they'd like to thank the NMCF for giving us the chance.
But did they hear you? Did they hear the issues that you were raising?
I think they just had us for those few hours we were there only. I don't think there's a little bit change they made.
So Carissa, remember, raises a very important issue, and that is the quality of education, which is something that you also have in your manifesto.
Yes.
Let's first start as, what do you see as the problems?
I see that early children, so young children, they don't get good quality education. And that is the building blocks for their life. You're gonna need to know how to read and such stuff. Other countries, children are able to read at the age of 3 and 4, yet in our country, in my school, children are only able to read at the age of 5 and 6. I was able to read at the age of 3 because it's possible to teach children to read at that young age. And our country isn't doing that. It's not opening the doors for the children, because we are able to learn the stuff, but we just aren't being taught them.
So Hikani, what do you think needs to change? What does the government need to do, or do our parents need to do for young children for a better education?
I think teachers should be trained, and in also poor education, we sometimes have to share one textbook, and it's only, and one textbook, and we are 10 to 15 learners, only one textbook. So we must ensure that the government should ensure that there are enough textbooks. And
have you had such challenges with school where you come from? Are there challenges of access to school books or even just money to take children to school? I mean, obviously there are schools that allow now for free education, but what are the challenges in your community where you're from?
It sometimes happens that we do not have enough textbooks, and you have to go where the person lives so that you can write the work. Yes.
So, Smiley, let's come to you. What is your feeling around the problems in our system in terms of the quality of education? Is there equality just across various populations on access to good quality education?
I don't think that the access to education is really implemented enough in schools, because there's this school, it's called Zama Montessori, and it's a school, but learners have to learn on the hard cold concrete floor, and they have to share like one or two textbooks with like 15 learners, and also like, you know, those containers that come at ports, like sometimes they would use those as the classrooms because they couldn't like afford to like build a proper classroom that's clean and has chairs and everything.
So you were talking earlier on, Smang, about policy and how young children can get involved. So if we're looking at this problem from a policy point of view, what would you suggest? What would you say needs to be considered to improve the quality of education for young people?
Well, I think that the Department of Education should check what education is being taught to students in various schools across the country, and that funds are allocated, maybe through fundraising programs or government, to ensure that the schools are like proper schools. You know, they have concrete walls and everything, and you know, and that the schools are built correctly, and that they're not kind of like shack schools or schools that have holes in the walls, broken windows, stuff like that.
So infrastructure is very important. So Michelle, let's talk about other things that you have here in this manifesto. So harmful traditional practices. I was very curious why you all added this, and I want to hear from all of you your own personal experiences, or what do you see as harmful traditional practices? Michelle, let's first start with you.
While harmful traditional practices are bad for a child's well-being, for example, let's take ukutwala for early child forced marriages. I don't think it's good for a child to be forced to get married, because they don't even know the things. They still have a lot to learn before they do this. So that's why children have hard times, because they don't know what they're doing. Sometimes they're even getting raped because they don't know what's going to happen to them, or they don't have the time to figure things out before.
Michelle, you're a writer. Are these some of the things that you write about? Or what do you write about in your books?
Me, I write about the experiences I've had. I've never ever written about traditional practices.
Okay, so you write about your experiences at home, at life, so for younger children. Do you write so that other people can relate to you, feel safe, feel like they've got a friend in your books?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll talk more about your writings and what each one of you's passion is. So basically, what are your thoughts on this, harmful traditional practices? Obviously, among those, there is the whole issue of whether or not it makes sense that some of these practices exist.
I'll take initiation, for example. Some other children are forced to go to initiation when they actually don't want to go to initiation, and their parents must make sure that they come out of the initiation school by giving those people money and stuff like that, whereas maybe they take people, mostly it's children from the villages, and their parents, it might be possible that their parents cannot afford the money that those people at the initiation school want them to pay.
Do you know anybody who has been to initiation school, or has that issue ever been discussed with you?
No, actually, I think most of the people are scared, and there's this rule that when you come out of the initiation school, there's nothing you discuss.
Machel, what's your point of view on this? The issue of Ugutwala was raised earlier on. Or any other practices, traditional practices that you see as being harmful?
I'll take virginity inspections. Virginity inspections are very wrong because, let's say, almost 5 girls are there, and only one person is inspecting them using maybe the wrong material. I come in and they inspect me, and then another person is inspected with the same material that I was using without it being washed or changed, to show that this is unhygienic. And it can, let me say, it can affect your womb or something like that, but it can affect your body in some way that maybe that will go inside, and then you don't know what kind of that is that.
Do you live in a community that does that, or is it something that you've heard about? Do you know anybody who's been through this?
No, I don't live in a community that does this. I only heard about it. And before I was part of the NMCF, I didn't really look into this matter up until I saw how serious it is.
Are these conversations that young children like yourselves are given space to talk to adults about, to parents about whether or not they want it to happen, or they don't want it to happen, or don't think it's right or wrong?
About initiation school, when sometimes when you tell the parents you don't want to do this, sometimes the parents tell you that no, this is culture, you have to do it. Maybe if your parent is a cultural person who does everything with culture, they'll tell you you have to do this, it's a must.
What do you understand as culture as a young child? What does it mean to you?
To me, culture means what you believe in.
Do you believe in that as a young child? Do you think you have a choice?
Yes, I do.
Carissa, your thoughts on this?
Well, I feel that it was also a point that was raised that with initiation, if you don't feel free to do it and you do not want to do it, people will bully you and say you're not man enough to do it and that you're a wimp.
So we're coming to the end of the program, and I would like each of you to talk about what Mampe was speaking about, child development, that she thinks that the lens through which adults see young children, as in problematizing young children, seeing them as vulnerable society and not seeing you as an asset. Talk to us a little bit about it and what your hopes for the future are, what you want to do, Carissa, with the voice that you have on this platform. And please tell us your age. I'd like each one of you, so that people, young people out there watching you, know this is my age mate, or this is what I can aspire to do. What is possible? Carissa, let's start with you.
Okay, so I'm 11. And I feel that with child development, we aren't developing correctly. since for child transport, for example, since some of our parents are busy working and we have to be taken home from school, we have transport. However, that the road is not the road isn't drivable on. It has potholes and stuff like that, and we can be injured. Or if our drivers drink excessively or smoke, that affects our lungs and puts our lives in danger. Therefore, the diseases we get, and we aren't developing how human beings should be.
What do you want to do with your life? You're a young leader now. Where do you think you want to go in life?
I want children to be heard. I want South Africa to be a country that people say, I want to go there.
Kwikanya, tell us about you, your age, and what you intend to do. Where do you see child development rights going?
I am 12 years old, and I really want to see every child happy, and they no longer have these issues. I want their issues dealt with.
And where do you see yourself in all of that in the future?
In the future, I see myself making it possible for the children that the issues that they face are being dealt with.
Okay, Makwetla, tell us about you, your age, and what you hope to see in the future for young children, for yourself.
I'm 13 years old, and violent protest in colleges and communities is part of the development part. Okay, that disrupts us from studying, because maybe they're protesting and there are tires everywhere if you're using transport, and that's the only lane you go with. The other lanes don't go exactly where your school is. You can't go to school now because you can't pass there, because people are burning stuff and they're throwing rocks to each other and stuff.
What role do you see yourself playing in all of that in the future?
And in all of this, I see myself fighting for change.
Okay, Tsepiso, how old are you, and what role do you see for yourself in the future, and especially in the development of children's rights?
I'm 13 years old, and I feel that we as children have a voice. There is someone there to hear us. It's not as if most of our leaders shut us out, but there are people who can hear us and help us, just like the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. How do you intend to make yourself heard in the future? What role do you see yourself playing? Actually, I'd like to be the president of South Africa to show change, but not because if you can look into our former presidents and our president now, most of them are elders. That's why we as children feel that we are not listened. I'd like to be a president, not when I'm old enough exactly, but and I'd like to tell everyone who's watching at home that nothing is impossible, as the word says itself, that I'm possible.
As Nelson Mandela says, it seems impossible until it's done. Michelle, how old are you? Where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
I am 10 years old, and in future, as a child advocate, I would like to see children being happy and to live in this world happily, just like they came in with. I don't want children coming in and thinking that they want to commit suicide because they don't like this world. I want to make a change by helping those children out there, especially in the rural areas, to come and form a platform or a group to explain to people their troubles and what they are facing back at home.
All right, let's end with you. Smanga, how old are you, and what role do you see for yourself?
I am 11 years old, and I see myself in the future as someone who also fights for child rights, and I hope that in the future, a lot of the issues that children raise are dealt with, and that children are, you know, safe again, or maybe like they can walk home peacefully with their friends and stuff. And I just hope that like South Africa can be a better place for children.
All right, so Mampe, just a quick final word from you. Nelson Mandela says it is in your hands to make it a better world for all who live in it. What do you see yourselves doing as a Nelson Mandela's Children Fund in one sentence?
We are a platform where children can raise their voices and be heard.
Thank you very much. Mampe said he's a program manager, child safety and protection here at the Nelson Mandela's Children's Fund. Thank you very much to Carissa Pedesi, Wikana Maduna, Madwaela Maelo, Maleo Sipesihle Khatebe, and Michelle Nkamana King. Mangaliso Mngenge. Thank you to all of my panelists here, and thanks to you at home for watching. Thanks to the studio crew here live at the Nelson Mandela Fund for our Youth Month discussions. That's it from us. Good night.
Trans Travel is your ultimate hookup on all things arts, travel, entertainment, and lifestyle. We go far and wide discovering the world's undiscovered wonders. So be sure not to miss Trans Travel every Saturday at 5:30 p.m.
Hello, I'm Nana, and I want to tell you a bit about Economics Unbound. It is a live studio current affairs program that brings an understanding of the economy, how it operates, and how it is managed. The show seeks to include ordinary South Africans in purposeful and well-informed discussions about the economy.
For you to be in business, you need to work with other businesses,
while providing them with enough information to make better economic and financial decisions.
Bringing informal sectors into a formal economy and making it more inclusive.
Any business opportunity that is below 1 million must be given to township entrepreneurship.
Through this program, audiences can look forward to 30 minutes of deep and tough questioning on the issues of the week.
To whom does women's unpaid work go?
We stay on the visuals, they're busy shooting.
We drove around this.
On Thursday, the 20th, President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver his first State of the Nation address as the head of the 6th administration. He is expected to speak on the current state of the economy and other burning issues affecting the country. Right here on the news channel, radio and digital services.
Mbaletsile Mthethwa joins us now live. MNS attorneys were mandated to conduct these reports and investigations. What sort of processes did they follow?
We heard Tiamo explaining that they worked with actuarial scientists in order to investigate these transactions.
Slap suits, tell us more about this.
The concept of slap suits, which is litigation often used by big companies to silence critics.
We as civil society won't stand for this kind of intimidation and harassment. If you come to South Africa, you need to obey the obligations that you have in terms of the laws of this country, including environmental laws.
We're explorers. We always have been. Endlessly curious, always looking for answers, for new frontiers, for new stories. Because that is who we are. From script to screen, from yelling action to taking you on a journey. Radio producers, script writers, on-air presenters, news reporters, sports analysts. We spend late nights creating captivating storylines and earlier mornings keeping you informed, educated, and entertained. For us, it's not a job, it's a calling. We do this and more because you do your part. SABC TV licenses. Made possible by you.